All right, so we're going to get started here. Thank you everyone for coming out. Before we get going, just a few quick logistics things. We do have a cash bar on the back. Please take care of your bartenders if you'd like to drink during the session. Another part of this is an extra panel, and the whole way this works is that you come up with really hard questions to stump the experts. And we would ask everyone to line up in front of the microphone in the center stage here and ask one question at a time. If you have one question, that's great. We'll give others a chance and you go back in line and ask your next question. So, quick round of introduction. So this is the Boston Office 365 user group. My name is Deere-Strole, and I'm one of the founders and organizers. With us today, we also have Mike Dixon sitting in the front row, David Losey sitting in the back row, and Jeff Rossi, who unfortunately couldn't make it with us today, but he's with us in spirit. So just a little bit about our user group if you've never been to one of our events before. So we were founded about 5 years ago. We were actually having a drink at a SharePoint at the Boston Office 365, Boston SharePoint user group, thinking, hey, there's a lot of change coming with Office 365. Why don't we start a user group that's beyond just SharePoint? And the idea is really to bring in the whole community, whether you're a business leader, an end user, an IT pro, a developer, a vendor, a consultant, and really bring together the local Boston and New England community to really get together and have a good time, share information, and so forth. Last year, we merged with the Boston SharePoint user group. So now there's one user group for all of your SharePoint and Office 365 needs. So generally speaking, we meet the third Thursday of every month. We either meet up in Burlington, Mass. at the Microsoft offices, or we meet in Cambridge and Kendall Square at the Nerd. We try to switch off between the two based on availability, but we're very grateful to Microsoft for the space. For those that can't make it in person, we also broadcast every session on Microsoft Teams. Afterwards, we upload the session to YouTube. So this session will be recorded. If you don't want your voice or video on the session, please do not ask any questions.
Can I reconsider? No. I say things I regret.
And for those that have never attended one of our sessions, this is not a normal session because we're at this event. But generally speaking, everyone comes in around 6 o'clock. We usually have pizza by a sponsor. We all get to network for a little bit. We kick it off with some updates of what's changed in Office 365 in the last month. So if you don't have the time to keep up with it, we give you a brief. We then usually have a speaker presentation that could be 5 or 10 minutes, followed by a main presentation on any given topic that we advertise in advance. From there, we have a little bit of an open discussion, any kind of challenges you might be facing in Office 365, which nobody ever has any challenges. Whether you're hiring, looking for work, we really want to make it a community-based event. We talk about other events in the area. We have a raffle, which we will have at the end of this session as well. And then we usually go out for a beer, and we talk more about stuff that a little bit less formal in this area. So in terms of the raffle at the end of this, we have 3 gift cards for Amazon that we'll be raffling away. But instead of actually giving out raffle tickets, we will be asking you questions based on what is going to be discussed now. So you have to pay attention.
Somebody told me that's going to be a test.
That's right, Eric. So one thing I want to say is huge thanks to SPTechCon for generously giving us this venue. Without sponsors like SPTechCon and others, we wouldn't have a place to host our users. We wouldn't have someone to pick up the tab, post food, and other things. So it's going to be a round of applause for our sponsors. Those of you that missed our session last month, we had a great presentation by Kirsty about the Office 365 goodie bag. What is OneNote, To-Do, Flow, Power BI. Christy's sitting over there. Christy, you can give us a quick hand up. If you missed our session, you can check her out. We upload it to YouTube, and you can watch it there. So without delaying this any further, our main event tonight is an experts panel, and we have 5 experts that we carefully selected from the newest speakers at this event. We'd like to go down the road and ask everyone to give a quick intro, starting with Eric.
Sure. Yeah, excellent. Hey all, thank you all for having me. My name is Eric Overfield, president and co-founder of Pixel, which is a SI based out of California, building solutions on SharePoint. What I typically do is more on the dev side, but I've moved into a lot of teams. Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Regional Director, all on side.
My name is Matt Wade. I am the VP of Client Engagement for AdBot, which is a no-code chatbot solution for Microsoft Cloud. They'll probably know more for the periodic table and some of the other infographics I put out for my MVP.
My name is Eric Shupps. I'm from Dallas, Texas. If you haven't figured that out already, I know that's a shock. And I'm here primarily
Stacy Deere-Strole. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I own and solutions architect at Focal Point Solutions, and essentially end-to-end for on-prem and Office 365.
Hi, I am Nick Brattoli. I live in Birmingham, Alabama. I am principal consultant at a company that I also own called 365 Consulting. I'm also the community manager at Collab365.community.
Awesome, thank you, experts. So now this is the extra panel. We will ask anyone that has any question for the experts, please line up in front of the microphone. It will take one question at a time. And our first question will come from Deb.
I forgot my question.
Second row.
I had a conversation before I came here. Questions go on.
Eric's a free consultant.
I can't forgot my question. Do you remember it? No, you don't remember it either.
All right, that's right. Let's go.
So the 5 experts on stage, they come with a wealth of background, everything from IT administration to development to user adoption, sort of really helping drive change in your organization. This is basically an hour of free consulting, 5 of the top lines of Office 365. Do not be shy.
All right, so I got my question. External collaboration. So I work for a small biotech company, and we are trying to figure out how to safely store our content with external collaboration. We're moving off of Dropbox, which is, of course, incredibly wild west. What is your best practices for doing external collaboration? So maybe VD guest accounts, setting up SharePoint sites, do you use separate tenants, do you use separate site collections? What advice do you have to offer for those of us that have to do it?
So my first question would be, what is the governance of your company?
We're developing.
So that's where I would start, because
I am.
depending on what the regulations are, you may be forced to have a separate tenant, because like in certain circumstances on-prem, you're required to make sure that one can talk to the other, so you have different web applications, whatever.
So we're Office 365 total modern,
Right.
small company, 130 people. US based, we're here in Cambridge. We do have one consultant living in California, so I have to consider impending GDPR coming in January. But right now we're dealing with just simple, we have Go Anywhere. What we've decided to do is to Go Anywhere for static collaboration. So if we just have to do a simple file share, they're giving us a file, we're giving you a file, we're going to use Go Anywhere for that. This is Azure AD, ED. We're using guest accounts there with two-factor authentication. Now, what we've decided to do is anything that is dynamic collaboration, we're going to use a SharePoint site. Right now, we're staying on the same tenant, but what we're discovering is that we're seeing built in person's email address, you see them getting a lookup in the people page. You choose them, you can't do anything with it, but you can still see it. And the concern is that one consultant can see the other consultant.
So I can add on to that a little bit. So that is a specific use case where maybe you want to go a different tenant like that if you're doing B2B. Personally, what I've seen organizations do when they're doing external collaboration is focusing on their labels, like in their site classifications, so that they know if this site has this kind of site classification, you know that this is going to be shared with external users and this kind of information is what you want to do.
We're doing that, yeah.
So you should at least be doing that.
So my governance is anything that's external, the URL has to begin with the X.
Yeah, so things like that it sounds like you're on the right track overall. That separate tenant or not that's going to depend on your needs. Every time I've done stuff with externals, they've always kept the same tenant and it's been okay, but they may not have the same use cases.
Thank you.
I have a question for you guys. Actually, this is kind of for everybody. Microsoft has announced that very soon, and people are tending to believe them this time, we are getting private channels.
Yeah.
So my question to you is private channels, excited or terrified? And why?
Anybody know our limitations? How we can do it?
I hate the idea of private channels. I absolutely hate them. I totally get that people love it, they really, really want it, but I think that Teams, personally, is meant to be super simple. And I think that we all complain about permission setups in SharePoint that have been around for 15 years and have caused so many problems. This is literally going to cause the exact same thing. They are on the way. The architecture behind them it was done as a necessity, but it is odd.
Yes.
And it's going to require a lot of training, and it's one of those things where, kind of like your question on external sharing, I work for a small consulting firm, not small, not small, like 10 people, but it was 180. We did a lot of the same things where we basically had different folders in a document library, like almost like in a bank when you go through a drive-through, you kind of like, they send the drawer out to you. That was how we looked at it. Folders to the external people. That requires training to do it, and a lot of people look at it as like, I just want a way to do it. There is no just to do it with private channels. It's functional, it's going to work, it's exactly what you asked for, but not necessarily the way that you asked for it, in my personal opinion.
I would agree with that. I'm 50-50 on it. But again, everyone's asking for it, so it's happening.
I see the need, but I don't know if the need outweighs the security stuff behind it.
As a like infrastructure person, as my main background focus, the architecture, same thing. That's what I'm most worried about.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is you can't create a team without creating a SharePoint site.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's okay.
Yep.
I think we're not allowed to talk.
If
too
all
much
you need
about
is
that.
chat, and you just need a little space to talk, that's the private channel.
So, show of hands, who's Team Edward and who's Team Jacob now?
Thank you very much.
And so for me, the private channels is a necessity. I think it's something I need, and my opinion on it is that I don't care that Microsoft has a problem securing. I don't care. It's not my problem. So I answer the same way they are. The other side, I need it. I want it. I don't care how they do it, but I do understand it's probably going to be ugly on the backside. But I'm not an instructor guy. It's not my problem.
So that's an advantage to the developer opinion, right?
And like the reason I need it, really, what I really want it is because selfishly from my side, we create a channel for every single client we have. Well, right now we have to create a team for them. So it's external. I have to create two teams, though, one for internal chatter, one for external with my client. I don't want that. I want one team, but the security model is going to get ugly, and I get that. But that's not my problem. That's Microsoft's problem.
Yeah, all of my clients are going to use it. Like, whatever my opinion is, that doesn't matter. They're all going to use it.
But I have to say, it is Microsoft's problem, but if you create them, it becomes your problem.
That's
If they
fair.
contact
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, I agree.
Can't be any worse than sharing.
Oh, it could be.
Yeah, you guys are
Alright,
see
what am I
where
thinking?
Mountain goes, or something, they're preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop thinking they should. That's my viewpoint on private channels.
They should have done it. I disagree, but yeah, I
Keep the
understand.
simple stupid, that's my
So let's take that mess one step further. I'm in the process of a 2010 to SharePoint Online migration, and we have a lot of, well, first of all, they started out where each division thought that their stuff was so super secret that nobody should see anything. But more importantly, in the individual lists, they have things like their P card requests and levels and management requests for offers for employees and stuff. Each one of these currently has a SharePoint Designer 2010 workflow that includes individual list item permissions.
Ugh.
And they think that we need to replicate this in SharePoint Online using Flow.
You can just
said.
you can make it so they can only see their own. Like, what do you need beyond that? Like,
Well, but managers need to be able to see certain ones, and the VP of whatever needs to be able to see certain
you can lock
groupings.
that down with the Power Apps. If you're making Power Apps for that, you can do stuff on that side and not have to do these individual permissions in SharePoint. I don't want to do that either.
Get a management group.
Until they see all items view.
Well, yeah, it's a security through obscurity kind of thing.
Yep.
You go that way with it. And you just say,
Create a page for them.
Yeah.
So my
That's a good
opinion,
idea.
John,
Create a page for them,
my
gives them their
opinion
dashboard of what they
instead
need to see, they don't know what's there.
365, first migrate your processes to something more realistic.
Yes. Yeah, we'll go with duh on that one. Anything else other than don't do it?
It's make sure that whoever's responsible for it knows they're responsible for it. Sometimes you just have to do whatever they're asking you to do, but you're not responsible. Like, disclaimer.
Yeah, you can only do what you're asked to do
Yeah.
in that type of situation, right?
The page might end up between the Power Apps and I'm building the Power Apps, and the page might be the
Yeah. You can
Yeah,
lock
it's
down
definitely.
with the Power App
It'll help.
embedded.
you can lock down individual fields and whatever you want inside Power Apps. Easier than doing that. Someone still has to make it though. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Love your t-shirt.
So I'm currently doing a 2010 migration as well.
Ooh.
Individually,
So it's been going on a couple of years. So my question, we painstakingly created a Power App to replace a 2010 InfoPath form. It's been working great. And then Microsoft changed the licensing on it. So for us to continue to using it, mind you, if I'm an education institute, it's going to cost us $473,000 a year.
Wow.
To continue to upgrade our because they all need it, because we're, okay.
Connectors?
Yes,
Is
because-
this Power Apps licensing change?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been exploring, because our data is all PeopleSoft, and so that on-prem data connection, gateway, whatever. So we're looking at, we looked at Azure AD for storage. That's still going to cost us at the current storage today at $1,800 a month. Never mind the increased amount of storage that we would need. So my question is, how do we get around that? So currently what I've got my team doing is recreating the InfoPath form to get it from 2010 to 2013, and we'll go back to the on-prem site and upgrade it to a 2013 or 2016 environment, both forms of which I have, which will give us till 2026 to figure out a solution. So my question to the experts, how do I avoid having to do that without having all those added costs?
Probably a third-party solution.
What was there with that?
Cost of being
Wait.
hacked.
So the
Well-
clarifying question is,
That's-
which licensing model are you looking at?
Yeah.
Educational plan 1 for our tenant.
Sorry, when was the date you were given the information? Was it pre or post Inspire?
I can't answer that.
Last month.
Yeah, so just.
Oh, no, it's been before that, and we were given the extended licenses, the trial licenses.
A little background for people who aren't aware, Flow and Power Apps licensing is changing coming in October. Now, I don't do
Yes.
Power Apps, but I do know that Flow, for
Yes.
example, they're getting rid of the $5 or $15 a month plan to get premium connectors, each connector, things like that. It's going to be $15 a month, minimum of 20 users. So $300 a month for Flow to keep using, say, the HTTP connector. Power Apps is its own thing. There's another Flow option where you can pay by the business processing. It's up to 5 flows, $500 a month, but it's still money we're actually talking here.
Well, we're
and that's
talking
the
in
impact.
a tenant
For
that,
background, I don't have an answer, I'm just kidding.
but we're talking a tenant that we have 10,000 users in,
Right, yep, so we got.
which is we have to pay per user, per plan A, plus a couple of plan 2 for
How
my
many
dev.
InfoPath forms do you have?
I'm sorry?
How many InfoPath forms do you have that you have to do something?
Right now, about 5.
So there's a per app model that's coming out as well. I don't know if it's quite going to meet what you're trying to do, because you still have those premium connectors, which is like sticking.
Well,
in
it's
there.
not a premium connector though, because we actually moved the Oracle information to a SQL.
So you're not
tables.
making API calls either, like HTTP or
So
something
it's
like that.
strictly into SQL now. We got it out of the Oracle, away from the premium connector. We fought around that, solved that, and then they did this to us.
SharePoint
Worse than the cable
framework
company.
is free.
Yeah. Third-party solutions can do a lot of the same stuff.
Do you
So
have a
sometimes-
third-party solution in mind that might be
Sometimes the
able to?
answer is to just build it yourself, right? And compared to what you're spending, what would it cost you to pay the developer to build you and maintain you?
I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't know I could do
A
that.
fraction thereof. Well, not if you hire us, I mean, we'd be more, obviously. But,
Well, you are just in Dallas and I'm in San Antonio, so
Yeah,
that's.
I am a premium guy. But rarely is roll your own solution the right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
It is often an answer, but not necessarily the right answer. But sometimes when the costs are that prohibitive, maybe rolling your own is the right answer to get around that licensing problem. You don't have 5,000 info platforms, in which case you need a whole
Right.
team of developers for years to build that. You got 5.
Right.
Pretty sure somebody competent could solve that problem for you at a fraction.
So far,
If
our
they haven't already.
Microsoft partner has not been able to come up with a solution.
Well, that's because they want to sell you them.
I'm not a dev, and I don't really say no dev, but this sounds like. one of those.
Yeah.
All right.
How many people here are familiar with that licensing change? That use Power Apps for Flow?
Did anybody else
Okay, a little
agree
bit.
by
So
what we
you
did?
should really look into that. There is a blog post, there was a session in Inspire. They posted the video of it, then it came down.
Yeah.
And that was after basically the public reaction. So you need to reach out to your Microsoft reps and say, hey, this is really, really not good for me if you have situations like you have, because they need to hear that feedback.
You know what, we reached out to
what kind
them.
of like negative feedback they get.
It hit us when the phone started ringing that the power-ups weren't working.
So it was really bad, and then it's only kind of bad, and the numbers you're getting can't be right based on the math I know. So I can follow up.
So can you use premium connectors and flow? Would you be able to explain that pricing?
This is a no licensing zone.
I'm only repeating what was stated during that session, and I just looked at that video was taken down, but it was stated publicly, so therefore it's okay. It was, right now it's a $5 and $50 a month plan, P1, P2, right? That's flow specifically, and they have different number of flows you get per month, the SLA is different, the runtime is different, all that stuff. They're now simplifying the licensing plan, so it's one, and it's a $15 a month plan. That's going to include, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the on-prem data gateway. That's going to include premium connectors. It's going to include the HTTP connectors. So the HTTP one was critical because a lot of people were using that to get around premium connectors. So like they want to connect to ServiceNow, boom, we'll just use the HTTP connector. That change happened months ago, though. That HTTP connector became premium months ago, but there's going to be a minimum requirement of the number of licenses. You can't just use it once. A lot of people use Flow premium connectors with a ServiceNow. Only one, right? Right, makes sense. So now it's going to be a minimum of 20, as far as they had announced. And their blog post did not actually include that number, but it was stated dozens of times during the session.
Minimum of 20 licenses.
So they might have 19 sitting around doing nothing. So, Scott, do you have any income?
Not that I want to depart with. But I did want to make the point that what they announced is in the process. What it will eventually be, which hopefully will be, they said to come out by the end of August, which is next week, might be a little different than what they said at Ignite, or excuse me, at Inspire. So, you know, you can have your guns loaded with those fire until the end of next week. So reserve judgment when you see what the final outcome is. And one thing I think that needs to be noted is that if you stay within the confines of Office 365, premium connectors aside, but at least from a flow perspective, if you stay within the confines of Office 365, you'll likely be okay. There's still yes, there are premium licenses, but there will still be a license. It's not free, it's included with Office 365. That is still there and will still be there. So if all I'm doing is writing flows, dealing with SharePoint, the Office 365 Outlook connector, etc., I'm likely going to be okay. It's when you start the premium connector story changes and so forth. What I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that there still is a license that comes with Office 365 Flow, and likewise for Power, right?
Yes, correct.
So it's not, it ain't a good story, I agree. I mean, people are going to end up paying money when they did before, but there still is that license that is included with Office 365.
And that was an unfortunate omission that they specifically did not talk about during that session for whatever reason, and that was the critical takeaway that, oh, okay, if you're not using premium connectors, you're using just Flow right now, that license that you get for your Office 365 license will still be included. But that does not include premium connectors. If you're using premium connectors, most notably the HTTP connector, because you can connect pretty much any API, that's going to be pension and cost.
And trust me, we've all been supplying our feedback on everything that comes out.
And the HTTP connector for SharePoint is not a premium connector. It will not be a premium connector. If you want to call one flow from another and you're using the HTTP connector for that now, they have promised us a new connector specifically for that. And my understanding is that what I was told, that will not be a premium connector either. They want you to be able to call one flow from another and not have to pay.
Question from online. What's a premium connector? I'm just kidding. The Office 365 user group just tweeted out the blog post from the announcement about the license changes. So if you follow us, Office 365, I just tweeted it out.
Okay, read the comments.
Yeah, it's
so good.
but I don't know if you're real question. Should the Office Fabric UI work on modern pages? I have JSON on my custom view, put the view into a list widget web part, all out of the box, just JSON custom, and none of the styling comes through. There's no CSS file loaded, nothing. What's that?
UI Fabric, what did you say?
The Office Fabric UI classes and all that stuff?
UI Fabric should work,
Yeah. Okay. Should. Right.
Wait, but how are you doing it? Just in a?
Just a list view, customized list view through JSON and there with classes on it. It works in the list view when I bring the list into a modern page and lose all the style.
You check on scripting?
You break it.
I didn't, maybe. I don't know. Definitely possible. Okay. I'll
Yeah, I don't see why it's not there. I actually did the class.
Nice.
I've been waiting to show
Okay, mine's, actually, this might be a good segue because mine's is sort of along still the branding umbrella. Around, I think it was like spring or so, when Microsoft implemented that custom branding that you could associate your logo and even the URL through your admin center, so it shows up in the title bar and everything like that. I did that and it looked great. All of a sudden, it disappeared like last month, and now it only happens to show up sporadically. Is that actually like a bug, or is that something that maybe there's like a setting I need to?
Yeah, it's a bug.
So basically, nag Microsoft support.
Yeah, you definitely want to open a ticket for that.
Okay.
So it gets into the telemetry, but it's a bug. I noticed it in all of our application customizers as well.
It's not a
Oh,
bug.
okay, so what did you just mean?
It's not. They changed up the CSS styling again, but it's not pervasive in every tenant, and it doesn't always happen all the time.
Okay.
But yeah, open a ticket so you can get it into telemetry.
So my ticket's been open for 2 months. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Oh my God.
That's because they put yours in the same bucket they put
Hold
mine
on,
in, which is the ignore file. They're an actual customer over here. They paid
So it's basically adding. I am an E5 tenant, if that makes sense.
You get 10 of your people to put the ticket in, they might pay attention to
Your
it.
ticket is older than Eric's child. Just throw that out there. I'm pretty sure it's what you said.
Awesome, thanks guys.
So I'm wondering if you guys have any insight into what like the current landscape is for analytics. I know I've been getting some like random productivity analytics through like, I'm assuming Delp, but is there a better story than there used to be for measuring usage and across?
I expected my session on that.
Well, speak up, girl, speak up.
So she did a session today, so I'm gonna let her talk about that.
But he was in it, so let's.
I was not, I missed it.
I saw it.
I caught it at the end.
Whoa.
So anyway, analytics is a lot of things, right? A lot of my clients still use Google Analytics to get some of those like granular stuff. You can actually put Google Analytics code into a SharePoint framework. Like, you put that in there. I'm not a developer, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But you can use that along the way. But there's also a pack you can use with Power BI, and you can get some of those analytics and get cool charts and stuff with it. I know there's stuff on the roadmap where they're trying to make that experience better for an admin, but I'm going to
So in the admin panel, if you go into the different admin panels, they have reporting and some analytics things where they actually show you usage on sites between SharePoint, OneDrive, and all that great stuff. Well, the cool thing is if you go into the details of it, you can actually export that information if you wanted to. So which means, hey, why don't you create a flow, do some nice Power BI, and you can be serving up your usage on all your different things. Right.
Does it still only come out in the past 30 days though? Or can you change
So
that
it's 7 days, 30, 60, 90, 180.
Okay, so that's 20.
Yeah, so make sure you're in the new modern view of the admin panel.
Okay.
And then you will start to see all
And if you want to get fancy, and again, analytics means a lot of things. You could go into the usage log, which gets like everything, like the audit log inside the security compliance. So it depends on what you're trying to analyze.
Yeah. Well, what about search also? You get basic search analytics, like what terms are being used, what
Yes,
the rates,
yes, yep.
all set to the same place?
And that admin panels, I mean, they're providing you a lot of information in the admin panel. We use it. I have an entire session on using what you find in the admin panel to help you build your governance, because they're helping you do all these things. Now, use what they're providing you to save you guys yourself some time.
Yeah, and they keep track of like the top search terms and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys went to Johnny Lopez's session earlier today. He talked about that. You can actually get the top results to go as like promoted results. So if someone searches for a certain thing, you know that everyone's looking for this. So there's lots of stuff to search there as well.
Thanks.
I know I turn on the Power BI part in my analytics, and it's just every other week I take a look at it and I go, that's it's just, and you waste so much time.
Yep. And even if you don't have that E5 license, get that pack and do your like E3 personal license and look at it just for yourself. You can get all those cool charts and whatnot.
You can't all be out of questions. Come on.
I'm just too comfortable, so I'm not going to get up. This is more of a, kind of a, just to get some insight, it's not even a question, but how long do each of you think SharePoint on-prem is going to last?
Forever?
Too long.
I don't
As
want
long
to do
as
it now.
people have EAs, there will be a SharePoint on.
My first employer lasts for a long time, which they will. They have projects for the next 100 years.
Yeah, the government and a lot of people like finance, anyone who doesn't is afraid of the cloud, it's going to be a while.
Some automotive.
Yeah.
I've got automotive and hybrid. They have been
Relatively long. But why is that a problem?
Because all the good stuff's on the cloud.
Not forever.
But if what you need is on-prem, right? I mean, we got communication sites in 2019. We got some cool whiz-bang stuff. So
Got some modern stuff.
Even the challenge of being in Office 365 is literally I gave a talk at Friday, I got done at 1:30, at 2 o'clock, the whole UI had changed. It was just, thank God it didn't happen in the middle of my demo.
Hashtag job
welcome to
security.
our world. No, but I was just.
wait till you're in front of 1,000 people in Las Vegas and
I can only imagine, right? I mean, could we just decide one day of the week we're going to make these changes, like Tuesday at 11 o'clock at a certain time, so I can expect it?
To be fair, they do tell you. You look at the message center.
No. They
I
did
mean,
not tell us
that's
what templates
giving
were
them a
going to
lot of
change.
credit.
They did not tell us, they told us Quick Get It was going to change, but not how it was going to change.
That's true.
I may or may not have done a presentation today that I did a piece of in a workshop on Sunday that
Changed?
that was not the same.
It's
And
frustrating.
you never
And a
know
good
the
chunk of
exact
what we
time
do is to build trust with our clients. And we've got a lot of technophobic people, and technophobic comes from insecurity with these products, right? They're insecure in their ability to use the products, and this enhances that insecurity. And it makes it really hard for us to build trust with them, and it's just challenging.
you know what the good answer, the good part of that is we have a great SKU and you want to manage those changes yourself.
Yeah.
You control the environment and it doesn't change underneath you.
No.
Sometimes you have it deployed. It's amazing.
There's a good
When
corollary.
my
though.
client decided to be modern, we went modern, we're in Office. I'll be talking actually October 5th, SharePoint Saturday, Boston. I'll be talking about our challenges.
There's a good corollary though for that, which is I mentioned this in my session that you were at earlier, which is it's always good when you can have a metaphor that people can relate to, right? Okay, they still use Facebook. How many groups on Facebook have been made in the last since 2004, right? 15 years. Oh my God, the new Facebook is terrible. I'm never going to use it again. And yet they now have half of the world on that system. So in the real world, when they're actually using their mobile devices at home, they might complain about it, but they still use it, right? And the people that you're probably talking about are the ones that are technophobic but they're still the ones that are posting bad memes on Facebook every day. So like, they can definitely do it at work. They just don't want to. And
They don't want to, right?
there's a level of but you do it anyway. So
But that still means I still have to win them over.
no, I know, and that's bad for you. I understand that, but, yeah.
We did have a question from over here, yes, sir.
How much you support FY 2019 being said that only a modern look and feel is the only advantage, whereas we are losing reporting services and various other services, like they are getting the workflow again back to the same engine. How far do you support? Like,
Not sure I understand Are you looking for reasons to upgrade to 2019? Is that what you're looking
No,
for?
do you support somebody says like I'm going to 2019?
Yeah, of course, if that's the right answer for their business, sure.
Yeah, I do talk a lot of people out of it though.
Yeah.
I do often say, look, it's going to cost more for me and for you to maintain the server infrastructure. There are lots of use cases for it though. If your data needs to stay on-prem or you need to do some certain server-side integrations, it makes sense to do so.
That only works at the smaller end of the spectrum. At the
Yeah.
larger end of the spectrum, the cost of maintaining an on-prem environment are minimal compared to paying for an ongoing service cloud environment if you have the right infrastructure already in place. So there's a balancing, there's a tipping point in there, right? Depending on what you can already deliver inside of your organization. But what's good for Microsoft isn't necessarily what's good for you as a customer, right? Much as they'd love to get your money every month on the cloud platform, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing for your business. But you know what's great is they continue to have an offering to support that business issue that you're trying to solve, right? They continue to deliver on-prem versions for us, and so we have a way to deal with that issue.
But end of the day, like there are so many limitations on that, right? Like the reporting engines are not there, and they said like workflow engine is coming back to the same era.
So you have to make a decision. You can't have both. Okay? You just can't. You can't have all the whiz-bang stuff that in the cloud on-prem. Would I love to have the security and compliance center and everything that comes along with that on-prem? Yeah, that'd be awesome. But you have to make a choice. And so what tends to happen is that the things that need to go on-prem, go on-prem. And the things that need to go in the cloud and get the cloud. You know what the great thing is for Microsoft? They get your money twice.
Don't you think that that's a force to Office 365?
No, not really, because you still have the option of going hybrid.
Yeah.
You can technically get the best of both worlds by going to hybrid, right? And getting the cool whiz bang things you do by having the connectors and all that kind of stuff. But it's client specific.
Yeah.
Very client. I have a client that is recently saying, hey, we're going to Office 365. Do you know what they also asked? We have a WordPress internet site. I paid $25,000. It's junk. Will you build me an on-prem SharePoint site and build me one of those awesome, cool internet sites that looks just like our intranet for our internet?
Yeah, and you can't do that online.
You can do that online. Right? That's what fits them. WordPress was not fitting their needs for what they wanted. It's a very large company, and they want an awesome site. They paid a ton of money, and they can't get it done in any other application. They said, build it, let's get it out there.
So what about the risk of security? I mean, certainly, you can't hire people today that have the knowledge to maintain security. I mean, 5 years ago, I was like, I didn't like the idea of the cloud because I didn't think you could have the security on the cloud that you could do in-house. Now I've totally switched that decision because it's so fast, it's changing so rapidly. Microsoft's hiring the best, the brightest. We can't do that. You can barely find somebody who can maintain a SharePoint site, let alone do the security part.
There's a gap.
So which means that you always said we can expect one more on-prem version?
We don't know. They have not said.
No. They haven't said no either.
Yeah.
Because they said like 2016 is going to be the last, 2019.
We did have a funeral for InfoPath in 20 years later. Yeah, I mean, I was at that funeral, right? I mean, most of us.
They said years ago, they're like, on-prem dead, and everyone freaked out. Yeah. And they're like, no, we're kidding, just kidding. No. I see that being.
I have clients that said if they ever state that if on-prem is going to go away, they're either going to stay on the version that they are, or they will find another application so that they can stay on-prem. They are not allowed to go to the cloud, period. So either Microsoft stays on-prem or another application is going to take over.
And good luck to them. I mean, it's going to come down to, you're not going to the cloud for a reason, right? That's becoming the default. So if you're going to stay on-prem, it's because of a compliance reason or a risk reason. Compliance might be illegal, right? There's just no question. The risk portion is really gray. So it's going to depend on who's in the role at that point, and they just might be risk averse. So be it. Okay, that's great, but you're going to miss out on all these other, applications and tools that come with a cloud subscription. That's just the way it is. But I've talked to too many people at this point where they say, "Oh, when am I going to get, when am I going to get Power Apps on-prem?"
Now they are increasing this licensing factor on Flow and Power Apps, which we could do, as you said, SharePoint framework, we can rebuild whatever you are building on Power Apps. So why should we go?
Why,
me being a end
why
user.
should you go to the cloud?
Yes.
Well, now you've asked the question in reverse. First you're asking why should you stay away from it? Why would we go to the
Because you
cloud?
get so much. Because you get so much. That's why. I mean, Microsoft Teams came out of absolutely nowhere in 2016, right? Like that was not even on the radar for people. And oh, by the way, here's an entirely, totally packaged in communication files, collaboration, meetings, all of that stuff. Boom, here you go. We saw Slack, we put it on the Derek machine, and it's now purple, but it's free. Take it, enjoy it. And that's good. That was a productive move for zero increase in cost. So you're right. Licensing for things might change, and that's their prerogative. They can do that. If you stay, you stay. If you don't, you don't. You can go back on prem if you want to at that point, I guess, or you go talk to. I don't know, is Lotus Notes still a thing, Stacy?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I just got a twitch.
One, last call at the bar if anyone wants to drink. We have 10 more minutes before they wrap up. Number two, we have a question from an online user. Could each panelist just give a quick bit of advice on the best way to maximize their Yammer investment?
Yammer.
Use it. Use it.
All right, and that answers that question. Let's have a good question, shall we?
Should have been a math stop.
Oh, no, I would say knowledge management, absolutely. Knowledge management for community practice and whatnot, some serious use cases for Yammer. I'm sorry, Teams and Yammer are not the same thing. There might be some notable, Venn diagram overlaps, but Yammer has some features to it that just do not match Teams. Teams is not meant to do what Yammer does and vice versa. I don't know. It really comes down to knowledge management, affinity groups. Generally, I look at Teams as, okay, we're all around the table, we're all doing the work, we've got our heads down, right? Yammer is I grab a megaphone and I go, hey, does anybody know the answer to X, Y, Z? That's really what Yammer is meant for. And if you don't see a use case for Yammer, there are actually a lot of really good posts recently from the Yammer team that have put out use cases for it. And actually, I mentioned in my session earlier today, they had 100 blog posts, like last week or something. And they asked for customer examples of using Yammer. They have 100 use cases for it.
Yeah.
Some of them might be Teams good or good in Teams, Teams specific, I guess. But Yammer's definitely going to be.
The part is they posted all that Yammer, so nobody read it.
Yes.
That was the problem. We do have a question back here. Yes.
Actually, if we can have people line up with the microphone, we are recording.
Come on.
Sorry. Hey.
It's for you too.
Please.
Yeah. It's a bit of a follow-on question. Maybe this fits in one of the sessions for tomorrow, but someone had mentioned about finding out when something is rolling out. They not just do it to me. And as far as I know, you don't know when it is exactly going to hit your tenant.
Yes.
Right.
Is there any plans to make that more clear?
No, so they have a certain rule set on when they notify you when things are coming in general, but you never know when it's going to come to your tenant. And sometimes, I'm in charge, everyone up here, I'm in charge of 10 different tenants at any given time, and you never know which one's getting what.
Tuesday would be nice. And then the other thing is depending on what's rolling out, they will do it in certain levels. Tenants that are 0 through 50, 100 to 500. So it's not always the same either, how they push it out. Sometimes they push it out and pay when you get it, and some it's by the size of the tenant.
We share your frustration.
Yeah, clearly.
That's what the Microsoft question and answer says. We understand you want this.
But we're not going to use it. Please break that into.
Mine's a quick one. So your thoughts on SharePoint groups, offices?
It depends. I try not to use SharePoint groups anymore when you can. Sometimes it still happens depending on how granular your governance gets. As a rule, in modern, I try not to get granular with governance. I try to do it at a site level. And so if you have a team site, then we're doing it as groups. At a site level, again, I try to use Office 365 groups, but as a consultant, every consultant says it depends. But yeah, I would try to do Office 365 groups first if you can, but it depends because it can get away from you real quick too. You end up with 1 million Office 365 groups.
Yeah, but if you're in a communication site, you're not using Office
Yeah,
365, you're using SharePoint.
But you can still use them in your permissions. You can still use Office 365 groups in your permissions on a communication site. So sometimes it still makes sense to do that. But often on communication sites, you just say everybody but external users and call it a day.
Hey, Matt, I have a question. Who's the one that built that sticker? It depends.
Is there any other context around the question? Is anything
No,
driving?
but yeah, basically.
It depends, I have to say it depends.
So what happens is when you create a group, an Office 365 group, because that has become the big G group these days, SharePoint groups kind of got demoted, when you think about it, that you create that group in O365 with a Camera, Outlook, or Teams, and you get that SharePoint site. The SharePoint site has owners, members, that's it, right? Right. Communication sites include visitors, members, owners, and you can add those SharePoint groups. If those SharePoint groups are relevant, and you think that like, hey, it's good for us to have a shared services group, right? It has all of IT, all of HR, all of finance. Maybe they do need access to that team, the files in that team, but they're not going to get access to the team site, sorry, SharePoint, but they're not going to get access to Teams if that's where it came from. So if you see a valid reason to have Teams be available to 15 people, but you want to have the files in that team accessible to the whole shared services organization setup, go for it. It's still going to work, but it just means it's going to be that much more complex to manage. And this is kind of making me itchy in the same way that like I don't like private channels because Teams is supposed to be simple.
So Matt, I've
just
got the
kind of just
opposite
build the
issue.
whole Teams a simple thing, right?
I've got the opposite issue. I've got maybe 5 libraries where everybody in the department needs to see it, but I've got another 5 libraries where only the directors and the VPs need to see the stuff.
That sounds like a separate site for those other 5
No,
libraries.
I mean, I got 130 people in the company. We've already at 92 sites.
There's not that many sites though. A lot
That's
of
not that
clients
many,
have like
yeah.
1,000+ sites. Yeah.
You can have another.
You guys see
site-
my little pinwheel diagram?
You can have another site and then still link it on the same site. They don't
Yeah.
know it's in a different site.
The
It's all
navigation
navigation.
I know what you
above,
mean,
yeah.
and I'm trying to do that in some cases, but yeah.
Try to do it at a site level if at all possible, because you can think whoever's in charge of that data, if they get hit by a bus tomorrow, the more granular you get, the harder it is to train a replacement if it's even possible at all. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks. So it is regarding the advanced threat protection. Once it is enabled to a tenant for E5 license, if they have an E5 license, whether it is valid for everyone across the entire tenant or it is specific to each and every user, because the license costs around $31 per user.
So you get the advanced threat protection anyway. Like everyone gets that to a certain degree, but everything that is per license is per user. Like everything involving a license at all. Like Flow, Power Apps, AIP. If you want to do the premium features of AIP, that user's got to have a premium license to be able to get those features.
Because recently when we raised a ticket with Microsoft, they said that once it is enabled for one user, it will be enabled across the tenant. But just we want to clarify the experts.
Maybe on that specific use case, I'd have to talk to them about it, but from most situations, the user that is using those resources has to have the license for those resources.
E5 license is required for all.
But it doesn't. It also doesn't have to be an E5. You can get advanced threat protection as a standalone and apply those individually to the licenses that you want, to the users that want it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it depends on the feature you're directly referring to as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Hey, Nick, in like 15 words or less, what's advanced threat protection?
Oh my God.
Spam bad or like
spam bad?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, spam. It sees it like this looks like a threat. I don't like it. What do you want me to do with it?
Okay.
Yeah, spam malware.
Okay.
Question hopefully should be easy, but we kind of figure it out. So we have 2 site collections. One is owned by the training department, one is owned by operations group. Within the training site collection, they have the calendar, and then they have a document library. So each of these events, they link to documents in the document library. And the operations side basically links to the calendar, clicks on the event, and opens the spreadsheet that's in the document library. And we all have edit permissions, but we're not able to save the file.
Check your edit permission and make sure nobody deselected.
Find the
edit.
user.
Yeah, on the document itself, so I guess one thing we try to look at is doing this downloading the file and seeing if
Yeah, find a user that it doesn't work for and do a permission check.
That happened to me this week. Somebody, I had a permission, a custom permission called contributor delete, and somebody deselected the ability to edit and add.
Yeah.
It became, basically became read-only.
Exactly, there's like a custom permission that was created and applied to the library. But yeah, just like you said, find a user that it doesn't work on, go there, go to the library, go to the permissions, you have an option to check permissions, type in that username, and it'll tell you exactly what
Oh,
they
yeah,
have.
yes, I do that. So I have a test user, another user that I used to do this. When I use that user, the same, I put them all in the same place, that user can open and change and see. But the users.
So one thing I've seen that causes an issue, when you share something specifically with a person, a lot of times users will do this and say, share with this person. It's not supposed to. They're supposed to get the highest permissions they have, but sometimes that limited permissions will overwrite what they have, and then they can't see something or change something they used to be able to. So it could be that, but really the only way to check it is to do a check on the person that it doesn't work for, and look at the groups that they're getting permissions from, and if they have limited permissions specifically, because someone shared something directly with them and put up their permissions.
So you mean limited access, right?
Yes,
Limited access. Sometimes that terrifying phrase.
Yeah, anytime, so just to be clear, anytime someone hits share, and then they say, then someone, you're breaking permissions on whatever you're doing that, a doc and a library and all that stuff, copy link. Copy
Then
link.
they go directly to the event, clicking on.
Yeah. But if an explicit permission has already been done at some
Yeah, you
point
can
with
see how they
them,
got it.
yeah, you have to go and see exactly what that person
Do the check
I've
on
seen-
the document to see what happens.
I think I had this happen recently on a list of mine where they were supposed to be getting edit permissions and they weren't able to edit it. And if they gave them contribute, it worked.
Which contributes is actually a level below edit, which is
It
weird.
is, right?
Yeah.
But that's what
your edit
I gave them both.
Yes,
shared,
Oh,
it was shared with them at a
Oh, I
previous,
looked.
that means it was shared with them at a previous time,
Yeah.
right? That means it was shared with them before, and then they've gotten this link again, and you're asking them to do something than they originally did the first time, and that will happen.
Yeah, because edit contains contribute. Edit just adds like deletion and stuff on top of it.
No, edit adds the ability
Yeah.
to create lists of libraries and views, that's what edit does.
Yeah,
Just give them all full control.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just give them
Sorted. There you go. Good answer. Yeah. We'll give you all medicine.
So with hat in hand, I'm in 2010 on-prem person.
Good for you, man.
But we're well on our way to SharePoint Online. And currently I have a lot of team sites that were built around special projects, we'll put it that way. So there are unique user permissions or certain people who will have either view only or read only, and then they'll have a limited set of contributors, and then senior personnel with access to that sort of thing. So what should, I'm interested in thoughts on what that should look like online to handle those sorts of projects.
Yeah. So you can do, if you want to be that granular as a outside consultant.
I
I'll
don't,
be like,
but they want it.
Yeah, I'll always be like, that's cool, but you're responsible for it.
Right.
You can do all of those old things still. Like you can go into the back end and find all the classic permission stuff in SharePoint and make all those individual groups. You can do that. But I try to start from the site level first. And on project sites specifically, I typically will make a projects hub that the people who want to see a lot of projects go into, and I roll everything up into that. But on the individual project sites, set the permissions however you want. Use a team site, make your groups, and then the people who have access to multiple projects go into the hub site, use certain.
And then you've got that roll-up stuff, and you have Power BI, all that stuff.
Okay, thank
Hey,
you.
just to be clear, is that project site still a technical term? Like it used to be a thing.
Yeah, it's not actually
Right.
a project, it's a team site for a project.
I was gonna say, it's not
a
like
project online
project site, because
Yeah.
those are
There used to
miserable.
be projects.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
classic, and
Yeah.
those do not.
Yeah, those don't exist, but it's.
I made the mistake of taking one of those, and I was able to hub it, and it broke it.
Yeah,
Don't do
yes,
that.
yeah, classic, only kind of work with hub site, don't use classic with hubs.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
This is a question or a comment. When I first started out with teams, I was creating team sites and it caused a lot of confusion because I was ready to shop this site or an admission site. I would create an admissions team, but it had a very similar name to existing teams. So I learned my lesson. So now when I create a team, I don't say registrar, I say registrar reports. So it's always department, then word, whatever the context is. That way, I don't create something that's very similar to something that exists, and then next thing you know, there's people emailing me because it creates an email address and expecting, answers from all this. So again, this is kind of a comment in terms of your question. This creating team sites is so easy, it's just so dangerous that you really have to have that now for.
It's called government.
Yeah. This is a thing that varies from every company. Some people like to lock that down so you can't create an Office 365 group. Some situations you're talking about, if it's the same people that are looking at both of these resources, you can hook your teams up to an existing team site if that's what you're talking about. If they're separate, that's a whole other story. Sometimes maybe they go into the same hub site, maybe they don't, so search can roll up. It can be the Wild West for sure. When you open up teams into there are governance tools. As an admin, you can go into the admin centers and watch what's getting created. There are third-party tools that can watch that stuff and be like, hey, this already exists, and it's existed for 3 months, and no one's gone in there. Just like she said, it depends on what you're trying to do, and it's all about the governance.
And the thing you do have to be careful with too, you can fill in and say, I want to create this site, and say, hey, this is the name, and it fills in the URL for you. And someone else can go in and type in the same exact thing, and they both will create.
Yeah.
The first one will create with exactly what you said. The second one will actually append a 3-digit number at the end.
Yep.
So definitely you want a provisioning process. Also, for those of you that don't know, when you create a group in Outlook or SharePoint or Planner or Stream, it creates that group in Outlook, right? You'll see it on the Outlook bar on the left side. It used to be that when you create a group or a team in Microsoft Teams, it creates that group in the background. It used to surface in Outlook as well. So you'd still get that Exchange mailbox, so you'd still get that Exchange calendar. That's still the case, except for the fact that it doesn't surface automatically. So last summer, Microsoft decided to make a change, which I don't really agree with, because I like the fact that you still got that calendar and that you got that group email address at the same time. But apparently, global address lists worldwide were getting overrun with the email address for teams that were being created, and people were emailing those email addresses to send to the groups thinking it was a distribution list, and people weren't getting emails, right? So that was a unilateral decision they made last summer. No longer the case. So when you create a team, it does still create that Outlook Exchange inbox and calendar, but you're not going to be able to see it unless you run PowerShell. I don't PowerShell. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not accessible, which is insane to me. It should be that when I create a team, do I want to see this in Outlook or not? Yes, I do, perhaps. It's just a toggle, pretty simple, no big deal. But that's not the way it works right now. So keep that in mind that when you do create a team, you do not see it in Outlook any longer. You used to. It happened to change last summer, and that's no longer the case. So keep that in mind.
Can you toggle both sides?
Yeah, with PowerShell probably, yeah.
But that's also how a lot of duplicates are created.
As an admin, you should be monitoring what groups are created and when, so you can expire them appropriately.
I actually suggest turning them off and do some sort of provisioning so that you have control over that. Because I actually had a client who said, well, we only have 8 SharePoint sites. I'm like, my assistant says you have 752.
Yeah. And it's a strategic decision. I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's like 37 entry points to create a group.
Yeah.
Whether it's in SharePoint or if it's in Planner, or if it's like, there's maybe 12 like apps to go through, but the number of add group buttons in the O365 experience is like really high. They make it super easy. Here, take those drugs, stick with that, you're addicted to these groups, Yes, ma'am.
So this was for the clarification of the sharing questions before. Can you clarify if somebody shares a file in the library? A, does that automatically break inheritance? And B, what trumps what? So should you set up permissions and expect them to be maintained, or if people can share, does that kind of just make it all break?
So when you share like the SharePoint site, that share button does not just copy the URL, it will give them like limited permissions on the whole site. And you would think, since the rest of it works, like you get whatever your highest permission is what you have. But often when you use that sharing button, you get that limited access, and for whatever reason, it locks people down. It's not supposed to.
It varies depending on where you do it.
And it varies depending on where you do it. But you can manage that if you go to share an individual file in a document library. You can manage who has access to it. Again, I try to simplify that. If it's somebody internal, I try to do it at the site level or at the very most, like a document library level. If you're going down to this person needs this file, you can again, you can share it individually. It's not going to break permissions for everybody, but if you're an admin or contributor and I go share this with you, it might turn you into limited access and you can't upload things anymore.
And keep in mind, so when say you're HR and you want to share a document with somebody, okay? If you go to share a document with someone and you hit share, you're going to share that document. You're actually breaking permissions on your site if that site is supposed to be locked down, right? Now, granted, they can only get to that document, but you just broke permissions on your site.
So it does break permissions for every.
It depends on what your definition of broken is.
Yeah.
So you can share with individual, like external users. External users only work that way, right? Unless they're like K2B or you add them to a group or something. It's okay to share individual documents, especially if you're going external. It makes sense to do that. That external user is not going to have any permissions as a regular user to share access.
Right.
If you have a contributor come in there and then someone shares it with them, break the permission they should have.
Yeah, because I have like a library where people share externally, but what happened is documents that have been shared externally somehow broke inheritance, so the people that should have access to those, they then couldn't share them.
Yeah, they'll have the permissions that they have now,
Yeah.
plus who you just shared it with. But if you go change something at the site level, it's not going to trickle down. Yeah.
So in essence,
yeah.
breaks inheritance, and you have to just.
Yeah, I try not to do that. Usually, most of my clients have special sites. If they're sharing with an external user, they put a security classification on it, and they're like, yeah, we're sharing this with them, and they put it in Office 365. The more you do it at the site level, the less the external users in the group, because you can put external users in the group, right, give them access to your resources. But it all depends. Like, if you the more granular you get with your permissions, the more broken they get. So anywhere you can do it at a site level, do it at a site level.
Yeah, when in doubt, keep it simple.
Right? Well, that's the thing, I tried to maintain it, like, here's the like, site level, and then all of a sudden I learned that all these documents, all of a sudden had to be
down to two things. Training your users on how to properly do it, and two, if your governance says X people cannot have access to certain kind of content and all that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that they're not doing that and taking that information, putting it somewhere else that it is okay for them to get to.
And do that with labels and policies and stuff,
Yes,
where
exactly.
if they do that, they're going to get warned. Maybe they can't overwrite it, if they can.
Well, and they should be able to share this. So what would be best practice for if they want to share, say, a presentation with a client, but only that one document? What would be best practice for that?
So if you're using groups everywhere, if this group has access to this document and then you break that permission and you add someone else to that group, they're going to have access to that document because they're in the group. Right, so use groups wherever you can. Don't use individuals. When you're sharing with an external party, you're going to hit the share button. It's going to break, but they're not going to have any internal permissions for you to worry about.
Yeah,
so use groups everywhere.
Yeah, so if you get audited, if you're a company that has a lot of compliance rules and regulations, and you go to get audited and they pull a permissions report, mine is make sure that there is explicit permissions if you're using that share. Right? And it does cause a problem. I've had clients freak out, permissions broke all over the place, and then I explained to them what was going on. A little bit different situation, but those reports will say that you have explicit permissions broken out.
Okay.
Is there a way to revert, clean it back up?
You could stop inheriting permissions, but then you still have to go clean it up. You'd have to clean it up at the top level. You can stop inheriting permissions, or you can start inheriting permissions again and make it from whatever's above it. Definitely never go down to the fuller level of document library.
So all you want is to link existing users as your friend.
Yeah, exactly.
That should be the default, by the way.
Yes.
Which you can set. You can have that be the default. You have to go set it.
No, I mean the default.
Yes.
Yeah, that.
You can go in your admin center. You can on your sharing settings. You can say what the default is, and it's anonymous or within my core. You can have it be the default of existing users, but you have to go and change it. By default, it's anonymous.
Yep.
No, we have that.
And like unchecked, able to edit. That's the one that I
Yeah.
got.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think it's in the
It's in
SharePoint
SharePoint
admin
admin and OneDrive. It's the same exact screen in both, but you can set it in there.
Is that for all sites though?
Yes.
Yes, it's the main, it's the God thing. You set it, and it's
You set it for SharePoint and OneDrive, and SharePoint, whatever the lowest on SharePoint is as high as all of it can go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, shall we try? we have trained users to do the, copy the URL and existing, but I don't know what it's doing with the permissions, but it views it as broken. Yes, if you do that. So if your goal is to have a nice clean library that doesn't say, it's individual permissions, every time they do that, they're still going to get as though they share. So I don't know. I mean, we built a flow to have them send, because all they want is to send the link through an email. So we just built a flow that put the link in as a column, and then they click the button and send off the email. And it doesn't do that. Yep. So that's how we got around that. But that was my question. I'm curious what you tell your clients about training, given all the talk. I'm not from the development side. I know nothing about development. So I come from the business side, and my goal is to teach people how to fish. They don't want to know how to fish. So I'm curious how you tell your clients that. Do you tell them like that with the learning pathways? Do you just say install that and Microsoft will update it and have at it? Or do you, like what's a decent balance between how much you teach users about digital and the cloud, URLs and all this other stuff? Or do you expect them to make their own forms and plans, or do they come and say, oh, you got to do that, you're the support person?
A lot of it is, so I'm a true believer of seeing is believing, right? Users are going to say, that's something new, I'm not going to change, I'm not going to do this. But if you show them how to do something in SharePoint that they already do, and you actually visually create a small little demo, prove to them what they're doing every day, this is how you can do it and how your life can be easier when they can visually see their stuff being done. They're like, wow, why didn't you give me this years ago? Why didn't you do this, right? And they don't realize that they had that ability, right? But you start to show them. And when they start to see it, then they're like, okay, I can get it.
Yeah, so you reach that level? Do you think we should be having them reach that level where they want to say, create a form. We want to build a plan.
I'm usually, just like Stacy, I'm usually an outside consultant coming into these companies, so I'm not there much after launch and training. And again, it depends on how much you put into there. I like to put some sort of a training period inside my project plans as I build them out. But a lot of these things is you solve a what's in it for me problem, like she's saying. They're going to have a what's in it for me problem, and then you can get champions to do that. And a lot of the users will pick it up on their own because there are all those materials out there that are free, like you're talking about. But there's usually a degree of hand-holding that you have to do along the way. You find a power user or two who are like, hey, I figured out how to use Power Apps, but now I want to do this. And then maybe you have an hour-long call to learn how to do that thing. But it's kind of a long process. You can't just say, here's 2 days of training, have at it.
So,
no one's going to retain.
The other cool thing that I've been getting a lot of is I've been building a lot of training sites based on snippet videos that we do in stream. How do I do X? How do I do X, right? They're more willing to go select something and watch a 2-minute video on how do I do this than go and watch a video that's 2 hours long when they only want to know how to do one thing. Break it up, make it small and easy for them, and put a training link on every single site that you have so they immediately can get to it.
Yeah. 8-hour training sessions only work on people who really want to learn that stuff. It's not going to work on the regular.
Well, I tell the people when I train them, if you get 10% of what I'm teaching you, we're good, because I'm at least giving you an idea of what you might want. Then you can come to me and say, remember that thing we talked about? How do I get it? And then the other thing I'm finding is viral with my client is as the people, the rabbits, right, the people who are really getting into it, they're doing things, and other people are going, hey, I want that. How'd you get that? And then I'm like, book an hour with me. And we sit down and we analyze and we figure out what they need, and then we start to work together.
There are many clients. I had a client earlier today sent me an email and said, hey, Stacy, I can't remember how to do this. And I sent her a link to the stream video I did when I taught her the first time. There you go.
There's also, so grab them where they actually can see some real value and try to go for lowest common denominator. But there's a few things that have stood out for me in my experience. One is people get really, I'm going to say amazed, and like at this point they shouldn't, because Google Docs has been doing it for 15 years probably, but just co-authoring. People really like co-authoring.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you tell them, like, don't stick in the same paragraph or in Word or the same cell in SharePoint or in Excel. for the same, text box and PowerPoint. Otherwise, you're good to go. That and the size limit of uploaded files in the SharePoint or in OneDrive, 15 gigabytes. That, for me, in one of my projects, I thought that was going to be icing on the cake, was external sharing and being able to share large files. That was the thing that people cared about the most as I was bringing the SharePoint Online from SharePoint 2013. Because I was working with a company that was like, oh, we'll just FedEx I was living in the Caribbean at the time. They were FedExing SD cards to Florida.
For shame.
Oh my
Right?
God.
And it seems so simple and obvious, but no, you can just upload this thing. It's going to be uploaded in 10 minutes, send the link to somebody, and you're good to go. Now that brings up the external sharing question, but if they look at that as being that important, then you can teach them how to do that, or just use OneDrive. I haven't really heard much about the OneDrive thing, but if you have a one-off share, I just use OneDrive. Yeah. All my sessions I do for these kinds of things, OneDrive, right? I just moved one company off of Slack onto Teams, believe it or not. Because I always get the pushback. I mentioned this in my session earlier, so people that heard that earlier, but I apologize. But a lot of people, I get these stupid little pushbacks on, the reactions, there's only 6 reactions, right? It's either thumbs up or it's, laugh or heart or whatever. It's really? That's it? Well, Slack gives me the entire emoji library, right? But when I showed them, oh, by the way, did you know that you can do a one-off, basically FaceTime? Because again, you have to make that comparison to what they're used to in the regular life, right? So you can just FaceTime somebody, and also you can screen share, you can do all that stuff. It's wow, WebEx is actually not really good because they have to download that plugin for Chrome and blah, 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 blah. It's right, exactly. You don't have to download anything now. It's completely browser-based if you're sharing with somebody external. Right? External is, for me at least, in my experience, has always been a real win. So some of those things that I look at, co-authoring is a big one, external sharing, big files being shared, and then especially with Teams and the Skype functionality in Teams, which it's a lot a lot of people don't like Skype, they don't like SharePoint, right? I don't want it to look like SharePoint, I don't want it to be Skype. Okay, well, this is that medicine that you get to give the dog when you wrap in cheese, basically. Okay, now, but it's purple cheese, right? So, you got all this stuff that's built in, and you got a lot of opportunities. So grab a few of those things that are quick wins and say, you got this. But by the way, now that I have your attention, did you want to talk about, permission setups and all that kind of stuff? Because you can really have a nice, organizational setup if you really want to go with it. But those little things that people actually have speed bumps for in their day-to-day work, that really provides a win.
So before I forget, I know we talked about the question about on SharePoint and Outlook changing the sharing. So if you weren't in my session today, I actually did the admin panel and I showed all that and I recorded it on Teams and uploaded the video to the slide thing. So it actually will show you where to go and do all that. Just that way.
Right. We're starting to run out of time, so we have time for one more question.
I'll remember my question. So, we all have a bunch of features, site selection, site features. What works and what doesn't work? And has anybody got a log of what we should and shouldn't be selecting?
You should not be going, if you're using Modern, the site features are not something you should be going into. So the site features are all the classic stuff there. You can turn them on Modern, and if you go into a classic site in SharePoint Online, you can turn on Modern features as well. But if you're using Modern sites by default, don't go with that.
They are, but Modern document sets, I understand now.
Those are on their way. Yeah.
Being told they're here?
They've been announced.
Yeah.
I don't think they've hit every tenant yet, but those are on their way to replace the old ones.
How do I know when it's here?
They put it in the message center. If you check your message center, I never do. I never read my.
I'm waiting for it. I got one library I need to document sets.
Yeah, so they're on their way. I just check the message center every now and then, or more likely I start messing around with something like, oh, this showed up. Good. But they're on their way, and I would not mess with those features in Modern if you can avoid it.
And if you want to hear more about keeping up with all the updates and all that kind of stuff, tomorrow morning, I think it's 9:45 in the main ballroom, I'm leading a panel similar to this to talk about how they stay up to date and how they just deal with the never-ending, constant, again, job security type of things. That keep up with it, great, you got it.
And that's an excellent thing. Also, if you like to keep up with things, the Boston Office 365 user group meets on the third Thursday of every month, and we frequently review updates that have come out in the last month. All right.
Let's give a hand for